Hello friends on the internet, YouTube, wherever else I may post this video. Just had a lot on my mind lately and haven't really posting a lot, as usual. Usually post a video every month or two or three, but wanted to kind of get out some ideas, theoretical, philosophical perspective on the evolutionary state that we're currently in, and kind of look back to where we have been, and what really is the catalyst that is thrusting us forward. And this does pertain to all my previous videos, and I'm sure will be in the title too, but it's basically this idea of the parasite, or a virus, or what have you, any external thing allowed into our body due to a corruption, basically being technology, and in the past, the technology of nature. So through bacteria, viruses, and parasites, be they worm or whatever, or I guess some kind of very small arachnids, like with mites and stuff like that, or whatever, they end up kind of being allowed into our body due to a change in our behavior, and they actually help us to some degree until we end up exploiting the environment too much due to this corruption, what the entity that is dwelling on us or within us wants for itself, or what end it's serving for another life form, perhaps even beyond the scope of what we know as human intelligence. So that idea of nature, this is what I believe. I think this is completely true, and I don't really think it's too even theoretical. I think there's scientific backing for what I'm about to say, but it's just a perspective on it that's kind of grounding this idea and making it digestible in a sense to just common parlance, kind of delving into the esoteric and the occult, but really making it accessible to just common sense. And so I guess I'll start with this idea back in, and I hope you can hear me kind of right by the freeway, but maybe it'll just be like an ambient white noise background, if you will. But delving back to evolution of man and how we've kind of gotten to where we are right now. These evolutions happen kind of, you could say, by accident, or maybe by fate. And this is a kind of evolution. I don't really believe in the Darwinian idea of it. I think there's more. It isn't just by chance. There's more of an actual thrust forward of nature, generation after generation. We're learning, encoding the information, and that's encoded in our DNA through our memories and our experience of what worked and what didn't through each generation, through the eons. But with this idea, you think about it very simply in a way of like man eating meat, killing an animal and then eating it. I do think probably in the ancient past, man was more of a gatherer, probably vegetarian, probably ate nuts and berries and fruits and seeds, and I think you could even like kind of tie this into the Cain and Abel story to some degree, and that might even be what the Cain and Abel story is telling us to some degree. But man, I believe, or one man maybe even, got smart enough. He's like, I'm hungry, and there's not enough food around, so I'm going to kill this animal, be it deer, wild boar, or whatever, using a rock or something like that. And through his own wits, he's able to kill a wild beast and then eat it. And through that process, he ends up, taking on whatever microbes, parasites, or viruses that the animal might have, and then takes it on into his own body, passes basically that entity from one species to another through ingesting it. And so through that, now that parasite or that entity, maybe it's not even negative to a degree for what was needed for humankind during that time, is then passed through act of sex, maybe even fighting or whatever, and whatever bodily fluids exchanged through that, but mostly through sex and generation. So that one man that killed that and ate that animal, or maybe shared it with his family, basically they all took on that bacteria or that parasite into their own bodies, and then that parasite ends up taking hold in the human body and kind of shaping it for its own needs, but also kind of giving something to mankind in a way. And that sort of can be what's the word I'm looking for? A symbiotic relationship, symbiotic, so that the this worm, or let's say, that lives now in the stomach of the man, or perhaps just a very microbial life or whatever, decides that it needs to grow, and so it basically taps into the biological system of humans and implores them to go and eat more and more and more, so it can grow. And then lo and behold, man also grows and gets bigger. Maybe even the brain does expand. I'm not like one of those vegans. I am vegan, but I'm not like dogmatic about it, where I believe there was no place in it for human history. Humans needed to do this at certain times to survive winters, and to expand out into further reaches, and then hybridize with other humans, spreading their growing and spreading the genetics to expand across the planet eventually. So I think I do think that, for instance, like this kind of hunting and animal husbandry, if you were, in our past, has actually been has been a good thing. In a lot of ways, Jupiterian, because it basically catalyzes expansion. So that's basically where I'm getting at, is that we've gotten something from the stuff that has lived in us, in a way, because it is basically becomes a part, taps into our body, becomes part of us, and then forces us into wanting to fill that void with more stuff, more information, more women, whatever, more children, more progeny, and to do that, you gotta get more and more food, and high protein food like meat, and then through that you end up, figuring out ways to just domesticate animals, and then you have like an unlimited source of that. So a lot of so that's kind of the general basic idea of what I'm trying to get at, is that these things that live in us that are foreign to our bodies adapt into us, and then kind of force us into evolving through just one decision, or one person making a decision, or it could be a mistake, someone making a mistake, you know. Like the 2001 Space Odyssey, it's like, you know, the first, like, murder, you know, the ape kills somebody with some bones, and then they end up learning, oh yeah, weapons, you know, we can use this war, and we can get more through, you know, taking, or something like that. And even though that's a negative, it actually causes evolution, and causes, it's sort of just, that's the way nature works, you know. So what I'm getting at is these things they're nature's technology, basically, and they force us into adapting and changing and growing and expanding our knowledge of our environment and the solar system, the universe in general. So it's a program. You could say it's a virus, because it can be a virus, and I think it's becoming a virus right now, but it's also a program. It's like nature is programming us to do something that it needs done. So I do believe in, you know, there is a consciousness that is the Earth and is our solar system, and is every planet has its own kind of conscious, like, you can think of it as a cell. Sun is the nucleus, and then everything in it has a job to do within that organism, like mitochondria, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So this is where I'm getting to the modern day now. So we've expanded, we've, you know, done, you know, through a lot of bad things like corruption. I have an earlier bit about this. This is like, through the corruption, through like things that we do wrong, we end up sort of learning from them and have to adapt constantly. And that's sort of the negative, pushing the positive forward. It also have the negative side of things being like the bad things that come from our experiences and our mistakes and our past, and then the positive things come from learning from those mistakes and propelling us forward. But then we encounter another mistake, and that's just on and on and on. You can kind of think about it as a golden spiral. We're constantly expanding through that force of gravity, or that force of just pushing us away. Instead of a straight line, it ends up being like a big spiral that infinitely expands through that negative push against our forward motion. And this is where I'm getting to now, is I do think there are higher dimensional beings. You can call them gods. I mean, the planets themselves are gods. I mean, that's why they're all named after the ancient gods of ancient Greece, and Rome, and same with the Nordic gods. They're all based off of the moving planets, the moving stars. I mean, we can see, but basically, man now has gotten to the point where he wants to be God, and he wants to push nature and towards his own designs. And the ones, who think it's their birthright through their DNA, the blue bloods, what have you, that have maybe it's Rh negative blood type, they've come to this point where they've done all this tinkering on humanity, and they treating us like animals, and where now they basically want to introduce little new organisms for us to sort of tamp us down, maybe like depopulate a little bit, maybe make us a little more fear-minded and not so open-minded, intelligent, and love-based, but more fear-based, in order to corral us in a certain way. And maybe they are just doing the bidding of nature, these elites, like Bill Gates and the Rockefellers and Rothschilds and the Morgans, and then of course George Soros is So basically, they've figured all this stuff out about our biome, and now they've decided, okay, well, we're gonna now do our own programs, put our own programs in humanity through vaccines and food and pharmaceuticals in general, to get people to do what we want them to do, because we don't want them to expand anymore. We want them to be more of just like an energy source for us, and if they expand too much on their own, then they're going to not need us anymore, and they won't want us, and then we'll lose that commodity. That's what they don't want, to lose, the commodity that they've been exploiting for so long. And so they trick everybody through, you know, their entertainment, their media, and their governments, to get us to be like good slaves, good chattel, and trick us into thinking it's for our own best interest to take their things. They sell it like it's so great. Vaccines are so amazing, great for everybody. Everyone loves vaccines. Get more of them. Why just like 1 or 2? Why not 72? I think it is, something like that. And it's basically, obviously, creating a lot of ill effects, and it's making people fearful. And I think a lot of the problems we're experiencing right now with this illogical political mindset we're experiencing is it's coming from not only the GMO foods, but I think in particular the vaccination schedule that's expanded. Because people are now, they're on the program. So you think about it like this, so our bodies are the hardware, our bones and our muscles and everything, they're the hardware, but they want to install new software. And so nature normally is installing the software for what nature needs to do for the environment, and to needs humans to do this, needs wolves to do this, needs the deer to do this, needs the insects to do this. But now we got basically mankind wants to install its own software into our hardware, and over time the software becomes part of the hardware, and then it becomes like a virus, expanding and spreading and infecting everybody with a wrong think, let's call it. So that's why what I'm seeing around, I see people, you bring something, like people just get triggered so easy by discussing a problem that politically, it's made us very left and right brain, so just cordoned off to one side or the other side, to which, people, one person or another might have a natural disposition. And so it's like, can't even discuss the vaccine issue without someone just having an emotional triggered reaction to that. That's the program working. It's like, dude, no, you must do this, you can only do this, and if you try to go against the program, then it's like, does not compute, spring pops out of the head, it's like, dang, it's like, error, and it's just, it's really disturbing for me to see that people are not just being reasonable and being able to talk about the problems that we're facing, and not realizing that a lot of this extreme leftist authoritarianism, for instance, like vaccines, which, I mean, it's a right and left, it seems like, are promoting it, but it seems like the left, that for some reasons they say they're liberals, but they don't want people to have free choice about their life, like, for instance, what goes into their body and being able to choose that. They're all about that when it comes to abortion, but when it comes to other things, they're like, forget about it. We trust science because our God has spoken. The priest class of scientism / atheism has spoken, and I don't know. It's a crazy time. But I mean, and honestly, I get emotionally triggered when I try to bring up these issues, and then I get this huge backlash. And so, I mean, I don't even use Facebook. I used to put a lot of this stuff out there, and I just kind of like it got to the point where it was too tiring to like try to like you have a rational perspective, not like call names or anything, but then you get everything at the book thrown at you and totally nonsensical, and I'm just logically trying to explain my argument, and then you just get people using a completely emotionally based argument with it. Vaccines are safe and effective. Vaccines are safe and effective. Whatever, and like, and any discussion about, you know, like, I mean, I saw this back with the fluoride thing in Portland, where they're trying to put fluoride in the water. Luckily, it didn't get put in, but they were saying it was a social justice issue, so that the little kiddies, the poor kids, couldn't afford dental care, could have not have less cavities by dumping basically rat poison in the water supply, industrial byproduct. And then I even like had I mean, I lost some new friends. I was trying to like kind of hang out with a new group, and it was right around the time it was a big issue, and I said that, you know, well, I didn't think it was a good idea, and I thought that the media was using the social justice narrative because they know most of Portland is very leftist, liberal minded, and that will appeal to this idea of helping people, and so people just get on the program and go all in. And I was like, this is what they're doing. It's really obvious, but people are like, they just freak out because they're on the program. They've been programmed. And I really do think part of that, it's psychology part of it, but I think a big part of that is like triggering through the physical system, you know, the nervous system, our gut. You know, a lot of this is tying to the gut and having poor gut health, and a lot of people think now they need universal health care because everyone's sick, but they don't realize that the healthcare industry / pharmaceutical industry / the government is really the one that's causing the problem in the first place. We don't want more of that. It's like totally insane. And you know, I typically was. I mean, I still do. I mean, I would say I'm a volunteerist, and I think that there is some place for government. You know, it's like a very small place for it. But unfortunately, more people think that expanding a corrupt, warmongering, pharmaceutical promoting corporate government is the answer to fixing the ills of society, when they've already shown that that's not what they want to do. They want to make more ills so they can control people. So they go, oh, I told you so, you're just a bunch of animals because you're out of control, so we're just going to have to come in and corral y'all. Anyways, I kind of went a little longer than I wanted to, but basically the idea is Morgellons is technology. Parasites are technology. You know, ropeworms are technology. Roundworms are technology. Mites are technology. Like, it's all spirochetes, technology. All these things that live in our body, basically, they've gotten in there through, just life and experience and mistakes, and forcing us to learn from them. But then when we have other very fallible human beings deciding that they want to be our gods and they want to be Mother Nature, it gets really scary and really dangerous really fast when you see the history of governments, history of monarchies and oligarchs, plutocrats, Pluto. That's another video about Pluto that I wanted to talk about, and the reason why the plutocratic plutocratic is really what, in a lot of ways, what we're going to, because it's basically it's a control through death. You know, it's like you pay the piper, you have to pay, and that's the, sort of like you give Pluto the coins to like ferry you through the river Styx, through the underworld, and that's kind of feels like we're in the underworld right now, this time. But anyways, I think that's all I wanted to really say. Hope it gives you some peace of mind and a little perspective on how we have to put our force fields up against these programs, against these designs, against this technology that wants to push us in a way that is not good for us. And you can see that when you see how bad the health crisis is, how people have just taken on way too much bad food, bad decisions, and just wanting more and more and more to their own destruction. And wanting more and more safety. You know, it doesn't even need to be. It's like, oh, I want to just be fat and watch my TV and be totally controlled like a hamster in a cage. As long as I can keep doing these shitty things to my body, and it's really not a good thing. So until next time, this is Brother Zygo signing out, and I will see you soon, hopefully. Peace.